The first time I heard my mother screaming from the basement, I almost opened the door. The second time, I knew it wasn't her. But by then, something on the other side had already learned how to sound exactly like her. When I was 12, my mother gave me one rule. It was the strangest rule she'd ever given me. We had just moved into an old two-story house at the edge of a small town. The house was cheap, too cheap, according to everyone who saw it. It had peeling white paint, crooked windows, and a backyard swallowed by tall weeds. But there was one thing I noticed immediately. A basement door. It stood beneath the staircase, painted dark brown, with a heavy metal lock hanging from it. On our first night, Mom caught me staring at it. She grabbed my shoulder. "Listen carefully," she said. Her voice was so serious that I stopped breathing. "Never open that door." I laughed nervously. "Why?" She looked at the basement door. Then back at me. "Because whatever you hear coming from down there." She swallowed. "It isn't me." I smiled, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. "And don't answer it," she whispered. "Not even if you hear me crying." For the first few weeks, nothing happened. The house was old, but it was quiet. Sometimes the pipes rattled. Sometimes the floor creaked. Sometimes I heard footsteps upstairs when Mom was downstairs. She always blamed the house. Then, one night, I woke up at 2:13 a.m. Someone was knocking. 3 slow knocks. Knock. 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 I sat up in bed. The sound had come from downstairs. I checked my phone. 2:13. Then I heard my mother's voice. "Sweetie?" I froze. Her voice was coming from the basement. "Sweetie, are you awake?" I stepped out of bed. Mom's bedroom was across the hallway. I could see her door. It was closed. Then her voice came again. "Please come downstairs." My heart started pounding. I opened her bedroom door. Mom was asleep. I shook her shoulder. "Mom?" She woke suddenly. "What?" "I heard you." She stared at me. "Heard me where?" "Downstairs." The color disappeared from her face. She jumped out of bed and grabbed my hand. We went downstairs together. The knocking had stopped. We stood in front of the basement door. Mom stared at the lock. Then she whispered, "Don't ever do that again." I asked her what was inside. She didn't answer. Instead, she took my hand and led me back upstairs. But just before we reached the top step, knock. 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 The basement door opened by itself. Only an inch. Mom stopped. I stopped. Then a voice whispered from the darkness. "Mom?" It was my voice. Perfectly. After that night, Mom changed. She started keeping every door in the house locked. She stopped letting me play downstairs. And every evening before bed, she checked the basement door 3 times. One night, I finally asked her, "What happened in this house before we moved here?" She sat silently at the kitchen table. For a long time, she didn't speak. Then she said, "The family who lived here before us had a little girl." I waited. Her name was Lily. What happened to her? Mom looked toward the basement. She disappeared. Where? Mom's eyes filled with tears. They found her shoes in the basement. I stared at her. Was she murdered? No. Mom's voice became almost inaudible. She was never found. That night, I couldn't sleep. At 2:13 a.m., I heard knocking again. 3 knocks. Then silence. Then another 3. I pulled the blanket over my head. And then I heard my mother. "Sweetie." I squeezed my eyes shut. "Sweetie, please." Her voice sounded frightened. "I'm downstairs." I knew she wasn't. Mom was sleeping beside me. I could hear her breathing. Then the voice downstairs started crying. "Please open the door." I looked at Mom. She was still asleep. The voice sobbed. "I'm scared." I covered my ears. Then it whispered. "He's coming." I stopped breathing. The crying suddenly stopped. And a little girl's voice replaced it. "Don't open the door." I slowly lowered my hands. "Who are you?" I whispered. The girl answered from downstairs. "Lily." Then something slammed against the basement door. Bang! Mom woke up. She looked at me. "You heard it too?" I nodded. She immediately pulled me out of bed. "We're leaving." We ran downstairs. Mom grabbed the car keys. But before she could open the front door, someone knocked from inside the basement. 3 times. Then Mom's voice came from behind the basement door. "Don't leave me." Mom froze. I looked at her. She was standing right beside me. Her face went pale. The voice behind the door screamed again. "Please." Mom grabbed my wrist. "Don't listen." The voice became angry. "You promised." Mom started crying. "What did you promise?" I asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she pulled me toward the front door. But before we reached it, the basement door slowly opened. A cold wind swept through the house. The darkness inside looked impossibly deep. Then I saw something standing at the bottom of the stairs. A little girl. She was wearing an old white dress. Her hair covered her face. She didn't move. Mom stepped in front of me. "Don't look at her." The girl slowly raised her head. Then she spoke. But this time, she used my mother's voice. "He's hungry." Something moved behind her. Something tall. Something that didn't look human. Mom grabbed me and ran. We got outside. She locked the front door behind us. But the knocking continued. From inside. 3 knocks. Then 6. Then 12. Mom drove until sunrise. We never went back. Years passed. I eventually moved away. I stopped talking about the house. I convinced myself that everything had been some horrible childhood nightmare. Then, when I was 26, my mother died. After the funeral, I returned to her apartment to clean out her belongings. Inside an old wooden box, I found a photograph. It was a picture of our old house. On the back, Mom had written, "I should have told you the truth." Underneath that was another sentence. The basement was never empty. My hand started shaking. There was one more thing inside the box. A cassette tape. I found an old player and pressed play. At first, there was only static. Then I heard my mother's voice. She was crying. If you're listening to this, I'm already gone. I stopped breathing. I need you to understand something. There was a long pause. Your father didn't die in an accident. My stomach dropped. He opened the basement door. The tape crackled. He heard me calling him from downstairs. But I wasn't downstairs. I stared at the speaker. Mom continued. Whatever lives under that house can copy voices. It copied your father's voice. Then it copied mine. And eventually, her voice broke. It copied yours. The tape went silent. Then I heard 3 knocks. Knock. 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 I slowly turned around. My apartment door was closed. Nobody was outside. Then my mother's voice came from the hallway. Sweetie? My blood turned cold. The voice continued. Open the door. I backed away. No. The voice became softer. I'm your mother. I looked at the cassette player. The tape was still running. But my mother's recorded voice was silent. Then something whispered through the apartment door. Please. I couldn't move. The voice suddenly changed. It became my own. Please let me in. I dropped the cassette. And then I noticed something underneath my apartment door. A shadow. 2 feet were standing on the other side. Bare feet. Small feet. Like a child's. But they weren't facing the door. They were facing me. I stepped backward. The shadow moved closer.